So, you're a language teacher looking to shake things up a bit, huh? You probably know that traditional assessments, fill in the blanks, multiple choice, you name it, don't always cut it when it comes to preparing students for the real world. What if I told you there are ways to make your assessments as dynamic and practical as real-world conversations? In this video, I'll dive into tips and hacks that not only measure your students' language skills, but also equip them for real-life situations. Trust me, you'll want to take notes. My name is Scott, and you're watching Immediate Immersion, where we're all about comprehension-based instruction in the modern language classroom. We'll be right back. Contextualized assessments are integral to the language teaching world. Let's face it, we've all been guilty of using those good old traditional assessments. You know the ones, multiple choice quizzes, on verb tenses, or fill in the blanks for vocabulary. They're easy to grade, but man, do they miss the mark when it comes to real-world language use. Imagine this. Your student aces a vocabulary test, but can't order a coffee in a Spanish cafe to save their life. It's like teaching someone to swim using only a textbook. Useful in theory, but not so much when you're actually in the water. That's why it's crucial for assessments to reflect how language is used in a day-to-day situation. It gives students the tools they need to actually communicate, not just ace a test. So, how do we create these magical contextualized assessments? Start simple. Use scenarios that mimic real-life situations. For example, instead of asking students to list food items, have them role-play ordering dinner at a French restaurant. Or instead of a straightforward listen and answer exercise, make it a two-way street where they're listening to directions and then have to give some in return. Role-playing exercises like those not only engage the students, but also prepare them to navigate various social contexts. It's like setting them up on a play date with the language, where they learn the ropes by actually interacting. When assessments simulate real experiences, students get a double whammy. They're prepared for the test and for real life. Skill integration is the big kahuna of language learning. Think about it. When was the last time you used just one language skill in isolation in your daily life? Probably never, right? In the real world, we're juggling listening, speaking, reading, and writing all of the time, and often simultaneously. Yet for some reason, we've been sticking to these one-trick pony assessments that focus solely on, say, vocabulary or grammar. It's like teaching someone to juggle, but only giving them one ball. So here's the deal. If we want to make our students proficient in a language, our assessments need to get them juggling those skills, not just tossing one up and down. Let's spice things up a bit. Why not design an assessment where students listen to a voice message and then have to write an email reply? Or what about a simulated business meeting where students have to read a brief, discuss it verbally, and then jot down some action points? These multi-skill assessments are like mini boot camps for real-world language use. The point is, we need to kick these one-dimensional assessments to the curb. They're not doing us or our students any favors. An assessment that integrates multiple skills not only gives you a fuller picture of a student's abilities, but also gives them the practical experience they need to actually use the language. Authentic materials are the stuff that bring language learning to life. Let's face it, nothing makes a student's eyes glaze over faster than a passage about Jose buying tacos from the store for the upteenth time. The age of artificial, cookie-cutter assessment content needs to be over. Because honestly, when was the last time anyone got excited about reading fictional dialogues that even Hallmark would reject for being too cheesy? What we want to do is hook students in by using material that reflects real-world language. Think about using tweets, newspaper articles, or even snippets of YouTube videos. Swap out those canned dialogues for real emails or text messages. Trust me, your students will thank you. When they see language being used in context they actually care about, that's when the magic happens. They're not just learning, they're relating. And while we're at it, let's not forget about cultural relevance. If you're teaching Spanish, for instance, throw in some material about a popular Latinx artist or a current event in a Spanish-speaking country. It's like inviting your students on a virtual field trip every time they walk into the classroom. By making assessments relevant both linguistically and culturally, you're not just teaching words or phrases, you're opening doors to a new way of seeing the world. That's the kind of teaching that sticks. Task-based assessments are where the rubber meets the road in language learning. I mean, let's be real. Knowing the subjunctive form of a verb is all well and good, but can your students actually use that knowledge to resolve a dispute or plan a trip? Those are the kinds of tasks that give a language its heartbeat. They're not just theoretical exercises. They're real-world applications that your students will face outside the classroom. So how do we make these assessments that capture this essence? Well, we need to think outside the textbook. Instead of yet another gap fill exercise, why not have students plan a trip? Give them a budget, a destination, and let them loose on the internet to find flights, accommodations, and activities. Then have them present their itinerary in the target language. This way, you're not just assessing their vocabulary and grammar, you're also evaluating their ability to use the language for problem solving and real-world communication. And hey, language is often a team sport. So don't shy away from group tasks. Create scenarios where students have to work together to resolve a customer complaint or negotiate a business deal. This type of group activity lets you assess those key cooperative language skills, like negotiation and clarification strategies. Because let's be honest, you can be a grammar whiz all day long, but if you can't communicate effectively with others, you're missing a big piece of the language puzzle. Ever felt swamped, drowning in endless stacks of assessments that seem to miss the mark? You know, the kind that tests isolated skills and grammar rules, but doesn't really capture the real-world language skills your students need? You're not alone, and I've got a lifeline for you. Introducing our Assessment Academy, a game-changing series of webinars designed to transform the way you think about assessments. I'll walk you through the ins and outs of creating dynamic assessments for listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Plus, you'll master the art of using various assessment techniques and rubrics to grade swiftly and accurately. And let's not forget about our hands-on sessions where we'll calibrate those rubrics together. Ready to make your assessments as lively and meaningful as your classroom sessions? Then you don't want to miss this. Visit mm.us/academy to register now. Feedback and self-assessment are the secret ingredients for cooking up some long-term language learning success. Think about it. What's the point of any assessment if it doesn't lead to improvement? Handing back a paper splash with red ink and a grade is one thing, but grading students on how to level up, that's where the real teaching happens. That's why it's key to have a solid feedback loop in place. I'm talking about rubrics that are crystal clear on what real-world language use looks like. Not just good job on verb conjugation, but detailed pointers like your directions were easy to follow, but try to work on your pronunciation for better clarity. You're giving them the roadmap for improvement. But hey, let's not forget that students can also be their own best critics, given the right tools. Self-assessment is like handing them a mirror that reflects not just their face, but also their skills. It helps them become aware of their own learning process. Guide them through this introspection with specific questions. Were you comfortable navigating that simulated business meeting? Did you feel you were persuasive enough? These moments of reflection are invaluable and develop lifelong learning skills. And let's throw in some peer reviews for good measure. You'd be surprised how much students can learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses. It's like having a mini coach embedded in the class. Plus, Reviewing others often reinforces your own understanding of what's important in effective communication. Bottom line, feedback and self-assessment aren't just add-ons. They're non-negotiables in creating assessments that are meaningful, relevant, and most importantly, actionable. So there you have it, folks. The lowdown on turning your language assessments from ho-hum to holy cow. This is useful. By focusing on real-world applications and integrating multiple skills, you're not just grading students, you're empowering them to navigate the world confidently in their language. And let's be honest, isn't that the ultimate goal? So go ahead, take these top 5 strategies for a spin in your next assessment. You and your students won't regret it. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more teaching inspiration, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. Until next time, happy comprehensible input.